Okay, so let's talk about US midterm elections because it's quite a popular topic on BBC, and I really don't think they're doing well. They're being BBC. So there was this tone when you're watching, particularly in the early hours of the morning, and you're watching the live interviews, the live reporting. There's this tone that if the Democrats will take over, the Democrats take over because the most popular politician, Obama, is going around giving speeches, that they could have the audacity to ask for Trump's tax returns, that they could fill the White House with red tape. Okay, yes, they could. Whether they do or not is highly debatable because a lot of Democrats, particularly at the higher end of the political scale, are Republicans. You look at Dianne Feinstein. She has a voting record that is identical to Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions being the other half of the author that put children into cages. So, okay, she's officially a Democrat, but she voted against Medicare for all. She voted against any kind of help towards the struggling and the poor. She voted against the people and for corporations at every single turn. But okay. Yes, Democrats could put the White House full of red tape. What would that mean? Okay, well, let's look at what Trump and the Republicans have done so far. And let's be very, very clear. They've been able to do whatever they want because Republicans own all three branches of government. There is nothing stopping them. So when Trump has come out in the past saying, well, it's the Democrats' fault that the Dreamers have lost their protection, that's bullshit. Because Trump, Republican, owns all three branches of government. He can do whatever the hell he wants. It is the Republicans who are responsible for Dreamers losing their protections. Okay, but this could mean, depending on what kind of Democrats get in, that there could be a bit of a turnaround for the country. And certainly a Democrat is better than a Republican, even a Democrat who is largely right-leaning and is mostly a Republican at best. When it comes up to red tape, okay, what kind of red tape could they do? Well, the latest that we have is the caravan of refugees going towards America seeking asylum. If you only listen to Trump and unfortunately the BBC, you get this connotation, this notion that these are violent criminals that are going to illegally break in and sneak in to the United States. That's not what's going to happen. These people are seeking asylum. They are traveling in a very large caravan, making sure that they're very well noticed, making sure that they do everything right. They are heading for certain checkpoints to legally seek asylum. That is what they're doing. They're not going to break into the country. But again, the BBC don't report that. Donald Trump doesn't spew that because, like it or not, he's a racist. Like it or not, his only interests are himself. That is Donald Trump. But if he had his way, he would send soldiers, and he said this. He wants to send soldiers to the border to murder these people. I'm sorry, but if the BBC is going to protest that Democrats might fill up the White House with red tape and actually stop that, get fucked. I fully support the red tape, stopping innocent people searching for a better life from being murdered. When it comes to the tax returns, why is that important? Well, Donald Trump, beautiful bits of reporting that don't come from BBC have shown that Trump and his entire family have committed tax fraud repeatedly. But before then, if you cast your mind back to the presidential run, Donald Trump was saying, I will show you my tax returns. I will show you I'm an honest person. And what did he do? It was, oh, well, the IRS are auditing me. I've been audited and I can't show them because it's all legal and complicated. It's a lie. It is an outright lie, and everyone is saying it's an outright lie, except for the Trump cult and Donald Trump himself. But if Democrats get a foothold, they could get that information subpoenaed, so they wouldn't have to wait for the lying con man to bring out those documents. They could go around them and get it themselves. If that shows, and it will undoubtedly show, that he is committing fraud, well, that's just one more thing that you have to take into consideration and actually think, is it worth impeaching this man? Now, I think I've been very clear, yes, it is, on a hell of a number of things. But that's just one more thing that you have to take into consideration. And when it comes to reporting that this is a vote for Republicans is a vote for Trump. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that statement. But I think BBC should have also put it in what Donald Trump's popularity actually is. And at best, he has an approval rating in the 40s. For an average politician, that's pretty shit, but okay. But for the president of the United States, that is dismal. That is shockingly bad. That is horrifically bad. And he's never had really a great approval rating to start off with. But after 2 years, at best, he has an approval rating in the 40s. Pretty shocking. So yes, a vote for the Republicans is a vote for Donald Trump, but that could dramatically go against Donald Trump because he's not very well liked. And what it will come down to is how many people get out and vote. Now, they BBC briefly touched on the fact that there have been a number of voting issues, that a number of stories have come out with people who have been able to vote early. And they said they voted for the Democrat, but the voting machines changed their vote for the Republican. And we've seen this mostly with Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke, where people have actually taken pictures of this. They've actually shown the proof that they've cast their votes for the Democrat, for Beto O'Rourke, and it has come out for Ted Cruz. And what has been the state's response to this? Oh, well, you know, that's it. They've not looked at rectifying this. They've not taken any action to ensure that this won't happen again. They've just shrugged it off as if, well, you know, I mean, still a vote for Republicans, so who really cares? That's something that BBC should have hit home. Also, at the start of this particular rambling, I mentioned that they had said that Obama was a popular figure for Democrats. I can't remember my exact wording, but I've noticed that BBC very, very rarely, if ever, mention Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm bringing him up because Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in America today, and he's been the most popular politician in America for a while. Why didn't he become president? Because the DNC, the Democratic Party, backed Hillary Clinton, the most unpopular politician in America. Why did they back Hillary? Because Hillary is the establishment. She is corporate. She is the sellout. And for everyone that still raves on about the George Soros conspiracies, you know what? If he was truly a leftist, if he was truly progressive, he wouldn't have given all that money to Hillary Clinton. He would have given it to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders would have won the primaries, and it would be President Sanders right now. Because let's face it, people didn't vote for Trump because he was Republican. People voted for Trump because they were sick and tired of the establishment. And I think you can translate that across the pond back into Blighty and say that's a large reason why people voted for Brexit, because we were sick of the establishment. I know there's a lot of other reasons, but I think that's the underlying principle of it, whether you consciously acknowledge it or not. But back to the topic, these midterm elections are incredibly important, and they will shape how America progresses and how the rest of the world progresses when it comes to the stock market. Constantly, Trump raves on about his successes in the stock market. Unfortunately, the truth is, Trump's had very little to do with that. Now, Trump has given an artificial inflation, which always leads to depressions, but the actual rise, the actual job increases and things like that, that's all coming off of the coattails of the Obama administration, not the Trump administration. That's just the facts of it. But when you start going down this road of giving Trump all of the credit for all of the good things, when we start to see all the bad stuff, like this tariff war, well, you can't just ignore that. You have to actually look into it and say, why did this happen? So if Democrats actually get a foothold, they might be able to end this tariff war, which would be a great thing for America. It might actually encourage a few businesses to come back, because Harley Davidson shut down a few of their places in America and moved over to Europe because of these tariffs, because tariffs are immediate, or within a week or so, immediate, rather than normal governmentary policies. It could lead to a stronger EPA. When it comes to the environment, we're fucked, and America is by far the biggest culprit, pulling out the Paris Climate Accords, which were voluntary, is absolutely obscene. But being led by Scott Pruitt, who spent his entire career trying to destroy the EPA, then his protege took over from him, is absolutely obscene. They might be able to put someone better in charge of the EPA. That would be my hope. Education is obviously a big deal, but that's not global effective. That's more local. I am much more worried about the environment than I am about education in America. That's just where my priorities lead. But there's a lot that could potentially happen if Democrats get this seat, and there is a lot of polls saying that there is a blue wave coming. Donald Trump lives in his own reality, saying that there's a red wave coming, but let's face it, the man's told, I believe, over 8,000 lies since taking office. 8,000 lies in 2 years. Christ almighty. But anyway, the midterm elections will come down to who actually gets out and votes. So people who are pissed off with Donald Trump, it depends how many of them will come out and vote. And let's not forget, his approval rating is in the 40s. So if everyone who has an issue with Donald Trump comes out and votes, done. It's not a conversation. It's not even close to a conversation. But it just relies on people actually getting out and voting.